Hey guys, welcome back to the sleeper of my truck. It is Sunday night and no one has looked at it yet. Hopefully they will tomorrow or the next day so I can get the fuck out of here. But for now, I wanted to make that video that I said that I was going to make about speaking in tongues. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you already know what speaking in tongues is. But if not, I'm gonna do like a little overview for you. Maybe I'll leave it in the comments when I'm done so you can skip it. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but basically the teaching comes from this thing called the Day of Pentecost, and if you want to know about the Day of Pentecost, you should look it up. It's a pretty short story. There are lots of videos on the Day of Pentecost, I'm sure. I can't say that I've seen ones only on the Day of Pentecost without... People only talk about it when it comes to the speaking in tongues crap, right? So I grew up like a weird denomination of Pentecostal. I think that our preacher was a Methodist preacher originally, but he just disagreed with the church and how they ran things and the hierarchies and the this and the that, and he's like, I don't need any of this crap in my life. All I need is the book, the Bible. And he started his own church, and he just went off of, his own interpretation of it, and it kind of fell under, like, the Pentecostal, tent? That sounds stupid, but yeah. It kind of just fell into with the Pentecostals, so that's basically what we were, even though technically we're, like, non-denominational, what the fuck ever. So a lot of people think different things about speaking in tongues. The basic things is that tongues is a language that God gave us, the Holy Spirit in particular gave us, and we can use it to communicate with other people, like, so the devil can't hear your plans. Like, two people could be talking to each other via speaking in tongues, so the devil couldn't hear what they're discussing. God can send you a message in tongues, and then he can send someone to interpret your message, or he can send you the interpretation afterwards. Once again, supposedly, because it's so the devil can't know the plan, doesn't know the game plan, so he can't sabotage it. But if you're speaking in tongues and then you get the English translation, then doesn't the devil now know about it? Because apparently the devil speaks really good English. So we're gonna circle back around to, like, when I was a kid. We're gonna get into the meat of the story, and this is kind of like the background story. So when I was a kid, I had a lot of trouble reading, and I had to take this, like, test. I was homeschooled, but my parents were, like, dickheads, so they were, like, really stressing me out over stuff, because they didn't want to really deal with my issues. They just wanted to make me feel bad about it, because that was somehow going to magically fix my problem. So, sorry, I'm, like, getting dry. I was really freaked out about it. My grandma had come over, and she was trying to, like, talk to me and, like, just be grandmotherly, spend time with her granddaughter. And I was like, Grandma, I really can't talk right now. I'm studying for this test, and it's, like, super important, and I know I'm gonna fail. And I was, like, kind of freaking out about it. And my grandma told me that I didn't need to study for the test. and that I wasn't going to fail. And I was like, what? What do you mean that I don't need to study for the test? And that's how somehow gonna magically make me not fail, right? And she's like, yeah, well, you can just talk to Jesus and ask him for the answers. So, like, even at this point in my life, anytime I had, like, talked to Jesus, that motherfucker ain't never said nothing back, so I didn't think he was gonna give me no test answers. So, I was like, well, Grandma, even if I could talk to Jesus and he would give me the test answers, wouldn't that just be cheating? And she was like, yeah, well, maybe. And I was like, so wouldn't I automatically fail if they caught me over here talking to Jesus, asking him for the test answers? And she said, well, you can speak in tongues. And I said, what? It's like, yeah, you can speak in tongues. I was like, Grandma, what are you talking about? She said, just say whatever you want, and God will know what you mean, and no one else will be able to tell what you're saying. So he can give you the answers, and you won't get kicked out for cheating. And, like, that's when the light started to turn on for me. Like, there's this crazy thing called speaking in tongues, and it's kind of fucking bullshit, right? So, thank you so much, Grandma. My grandma's never gonna see this video. She thinks that I'm like an evil lesbian who's going to hell and who worships the devil or something like that. Something fucking ridiculous. But it was, that slip up from her was like extremely useful on down the road. So, move forward about 10 years, and I was in youth group. This is before I got, like, booted out of youth group, right? And they had decided that the entire youth group was gonna get baptized by the Spirit, and we're all gonna be given the gift of speaking in tongues, because, like, really, at that point, no younger people in our church was speaking in tongues. It was like the older women mostly, just like causing a scene mid-service. Just ridiculous. So they decided that they was gonna baptize the whole youth group in the Holy Spirit as a rite of passage, like on the day of Pentecost, and we'd all be speaking in tongues, right? So they told us, we're going to do it on this day, and we're all going to get baptized by the Holy Spirit, and it's going to be great, and we're going to move, forward spiritually and become warriors for Christ, or some bullshit like that. And, like, I was really nervous, right? Because nobody knows this, but I'm a fucking atheist stuck in this bullshit youth group, and now they're gonna, like, lay hands on me, and, like, in case you don't know, sorry, this, like, chest rubby thing is something I do when I get stressed out. So, in case you don't know, like, when the Pentecost pray over you, they got, like, oil, and they rub it on your forehead, and they fuck up your hair, mess up your skin, and put their hand in your head, and, like, shake you, and yell at you, and all this stuff, and it's like, not so great, my man, not so great. And I always, like, dreaded that. I didn't like being touched by other people, so I'd already gone through, like, a pretty good amount of trauma at that time in my life, so this is just, like, the most terrifying thing ever. But, like I said, thank you, Grandma, because I already knew this shit was bullshit. So, next week comes by, and it's my turn, and I'm pretty sure it was a specific youth pastor that was praying over me so I could be filled with the Spirit, which is what they call it, and given the gifts of tongues. So, you know, other people are coming up and they're going, and some of them are receiving the gift of the Spirit and some of them ain't. And they get to me and, you know, they're like praying over me and all this stuff, and I start rocking back and forth, and, you know, then I just like let it out, like, yeah, shara bada shita bada shama shiba shiba shira, whatever. And it's kind of funny because I've heard more people now than just our like congregation speak in tongues, and we had certain like just gibberish syllables that people would use over and over again, but people in other parts of the country have different gibberish syllables that they use over and over again. So it's kind of funny to see that, like, how from part of the country to different part of the country, how the speaking in tongues sounds different. It's kind of interesting. But anyways, that's not the point. Since my grandma accidentally let that slip, I was able to fake my way through being baptized by the Spirit. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of the other people didn't know this shit's fake, right? So they're getting prayed over forever. It's taken like such a long time, and some of them like didn't receive the gift that week. I just felt like so bad for him, man. And I didn't really feel bad for lying, because it's a self-preservation thing, you know, like, it could be really dangerous if then people figure out that you ain't one of them, and a lot of them already had the inclination to thinking that I wasn't one of them. So I was really happy that nobody accused me of faking it or nothing, because, you know, I definitely was, they are too, but you gotta be a certain amount of convincing, and I'm not sure that I was, but I must have been, because they let me slide. So that's my story about being an atheist who was baptized by the Spirit. I hope that you enjoyed this story. I wanted to kind of tack on some stuff about falling out in spirit, but I'm afraid that if I do that, this video is going to be too long, because like I said, I had to re-record this because I did that last time. So maybe that should be its other video. If you have any thoughts related to the subject, I would love to hear from you in the comments. But if not, have a happy weekend. I hope your Monday isn't miserable whenever the fuck you're watching this, because, you know, the internets. This will live on the internets till I die. Great. So, anyway, y'all have a good weekend.